gets spoken. So guys, no pressure, but you're our kind of basically last panel for this portion of the summer. So, and these are some of my favorite folks who have some great stories about getting their first job, working for Rachel, assistant land, getting promoted. Chanel has some insane cloning stories that we're going to talk about. You thought cloning wasn't going to come back. Cloning is going to come back in this panel. So I am so excited to introduce my favorite people. And I'm going to kick it to each of you to do a little bit of an intro on your own bio. And I might weigh in some things, but I'm going to try not to talk. So Adon, I'm going to throw it to you first because you've been with our students all summer.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, cool.
Yes.
So again, I did start at Film2Future, but before Film2Future, I went to this high school down in a little bit east of East LA in South El Monte, and we didn't have anything, nothing really for the arts. The only thing we had was theater, just like regular theater that our drama teacher would teach us. And so through our drama teacher, me and a couple of friends got accepted to Film2Future the first year, and you guys, it was a little sketchy. The website was not up to it what it is right now. So, and I believe the first time we met was in a bar / restaurant, right, Rachel?
It was free, guys. It was tiny and it was free, and that's what I could pull off. But it was a bar restaurant, I'm not gonna lie.
And then like the second year was a church, like inside like a basement in a church.
Also free, guys.
So yeah, first year we did what you guys were doing, narrative film, and second year we did animation, third year we did advertisement, and then the fourth year I just kind of stuck along to just help the students sometimes like do transportation and do PA jobs like runs and whatnot. And then it wasn't until I did hit my second year, after our second year of animation, Rachel got me my first interview to be a PA, office PA for Glow. So that was like my first entrance job into the entertainment industry. And then from there, I was able to flourish and get a little bit of connections and just hop onto project to project. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Lil Crook, I'm just going in order of my squares.
Hi, everybody. I know some of you, to those that I don't know, hello. I sort of also started with Film2Future. I guess one step before that, I interned at Haven Entertainment when I was in college. And I quickly started temping for Rachel and Jesse because their assistant left at the time. And then I went back to school, and then after school, Rachel and I kept in touch, and then she was starting Film2Future, and she said she needed a coordinator, and so I jumped on board with that, and that was very exciting. And then at the end of that year, I was moving back to LA, so I needed some money, so Rachel helped me get a job that paid a little bit more than Film2Future. And that was a job in her office at Haven as an assistant to Brendan Bragg and Jordana Malik. And then I was there for over a year and a half. And then my boss, Jordana Malik, started this company with Michael Showalter called Semi-Formal Productions. So I went to Semi-Formal Productions, and I've been there since the start of the company. We're about 2.5 years old now. And I started there as an assistant, and then I've been promoted to creative executive. So that's been my path.
Yep. Jen, and then Chanel, we're going to save you for last because there's a joke with Emily and Jen. But Jen, I'm going to let you go.
So I also started with Film2Future, and before that I interned at Haven. And so I was Emily number 2. But no, I interned at Haven while I was in college, and about 2 weeks into my internship there, Rachel said, "Hey, I need help. Does anyone have a free Saturday?" And I said, sure. And then one free Saturday turned into me helping the program coordinator for the rest of that summer with the program. And then I came back last year and I was the program coordinator. So I might have met some of you guys if you were at the gala, or if you were at different programs, I was there. And then in January, Rachel helped me get a position at Verve, which is where Jess, who was just here talking to you guys, works at, and I'm currently a TV assistant to a TV agent there. And yeah.
And fun fact about both Emily and Jen, I tried to get them both to drop out of college to help me. And they smartly turned me down. But that was my pitch to both of them, that please drop out of college. I desperately need you. They decided to finish college, which is fine. So Chanel, coming to you, because you have a very interesting origin story. And let's say how you came to us in Haven. So over to you.
Well, I am from Los Angeles, so I'm actually a local. I kind of went to community college, and while I was there, I did some pretty cool internships. I knew that I loved comedy, so I figured I would go to all the top comedy places and just bust my ass to get an internship. I interned at Funny or Die. Then I went upstairs to his production company, Gary Sanchez. I did Mosaic. I did Red Hour Films, which is Ben Stiller's production company. So I really learned a lot through those internships, but internships don't pay, so eventually you have to work. So my first job after that was working for Barbra Streisand, which was basically diving into the deep end of assisting. I did that for about 8 months, just learning how to be an assistant and very, very particular tasks that you have to deal with there. But it wasn't anything with film, so I just wanted to get back into comedy. So I started looking for a position while I was there, and then I started at Haven probably 5 years ago now, I guess.
Crazy, right?
Yes, I've been there for a long time. And then probably about 2.5 years after assisting, I got promoted, started signing some clients, mainly overseas. I really like international talent, so I have quite a few comedians over there, comedians here, New York, and yeah, so now I'm a manager at Havens with Rachel.
She's a boss. She has some amazing clients. We will talk about that yet. So, and feel free to throw me under the bus here if I am the answer to this question. But I would love for you each to, and we can lightning round this, talk about the craziest ask when you were an assistant or PA or an intern that someone asked you, and how did you solve that problem? Because I know everyone, and it's probably me for 3 out of 4 of you, or 4 out of 4, who knows? But Chanel, I'm going to start, since you were last, you get to go first, of what was the craziest task and how did you deal with it?
It actually wasn't for Barbara, surprisingly. I would say it's a Haven for a client. A client wanted to make replica bobbleheads of 2 of the producers on her show, but I only had about like maybe 3 days a week to get them made. So I actually ended up talking to a production warehouse in China, I believe, to make these bobbleheads. So I would have to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to talk to them, because that's when they opened, and I had to like set an alarm to talk to them. And then I had to go back and forth because they weren't exactly like the picture, or the wardrobe wasn't right on the bobbleheads. So I think that was one of the craziest tasks, but I think it was just like, you have to get it done. It was a really important client, and I didn't want to mess it up because this client is well connected in the comedy space. So you want to make sure that you do the best that you can and do it exactly right. And it fortunately ended up working, but that was probably the craziest.
By the way, I really would have put $100 down. It would have been a Barbara story. I just want you to know I lost that bet. Emily, I'm going to go to you next.
For me, there was one time, it was a Friday evening at the office. We were like wrapping everything up. This is when I was working at Haven. And I think it was like 6:30. So we're all like ready to get out of the office. And I get a phone call from one of my bosses who had already left the office. And they said, I can't find my wallet. Can you go look in our office? And I was like, sure. Where do you think that you left it? And they said, well, it should just be like on my desk. And it wasn't on the desk. So then they were kind of like walking through in their mind where it could have been. And what they realized is they had gone out to lunch that day, brought some food back with them, put their wallet in the bag with the leftovers. And then at the end of the day, thrown that bag of leftovers out. And, our office manager had already taken all the trash out to the dumpster. And I immediately just hysterically started laughing, so I had to put myself on mute because I knew what I had to do next. It was just like a get it done moment where it was like, you're gonna have to go dumpster diving to find this wallet. Like, there's no way around it. And so I just start hysterically laughing. I pull it together. I said, okay, yep, I'm gonna look into it. I'll call you back. And so I explained to some of the other assistants in the office, like, what was going on. And a friend of mine came down with me because I was like, I might need you to literally pull me out of this dumpster after I get in it. And very, very, very luckily, like, the trash bag was still like on top and the takeout bag was like on the top of that bag. So I just had to like reach in and get it. But there was a moment where I saw myself like full professional wear, like hopping in this dumpster and like swimming through trash to like find this wallet.
By the way, I did not know that story, and I love it so much, and I'm pretty sure it's not me, right? That was
not a Rachel story.
Okay, phew. Jen, you want to go next?
Sure. Okay, the first thing that came to my head, honestly, was also not a Rachel story.
You guys, you can throw me under the bus. It's fine. I just want you to know I deserve it.
Well, so it was while I was still in the mailroom at Verve, and we were, sending out these invitations for a screening. But they weren't like regular invitations. We basically had to make like around 100 of these boxes, and it was like a box, and then like the theme of the movie was some kind of like, I don't know, it was some kind of scary movie, and it was like took place like on a farm. So we had these boxes, and we had to put hay in them, and then like wrap the invitation nicely and tie it with a bow and put it in. We had to make about 100 of these. We get told Monday morning that they need them all ready to go out Tuesday morning. So I go back and I start making one. I make one, I take it to the agent to get approval from her, knowing that we need to get approval so we can get it out. It takes me until like 3:00 in the afternoon to get approval on the box looking correctly. And then I have to sit there in the back and try and get all of them done before the end of the day. And I ended up stealing like the rest of the mailroom people to try and get this done, because there was no way I was going to make them all look exactly the same, perfectly ready to go without like any issues. Like the glue wasn't working, so we had to run out and get more. It was just like every little thing that could possibly go wrong. We ran out of string. We had to order more string. We ran out of hay, and someone had to run to the craft store and get more hay. It was very stressful. We did get it done and got all the invitations out, and it went off well. But it was like a very like time crunch, it has to be perfect type of situation. That was not something I was expecting to do in my first like month there.
This is really bringing me a joy of life that I can't even tell you. Also that it wasn't me either. God, I'm gonna turn it over to you and see if it is gonna be me.
My story is not you actually either. So when I was in Glow, I think I barely just turned 18. So one of my first things that they made me do was go to a strip club and literally measure the stage of the strip club. And it was a strip club in Glendale, which was kind of sketchy, like in the deserty area of Glendale. And so I went to the strip club, and it was only like 10 in the afternoon, so it wasn't open. I go in and I tell them, oh, locations person sent me so I can measure your whole entire strip club. And they're like, yeah, totally. And it was not just a regular stage. It was like a really two semicircles in between, like kind of like a bone. So I had to do a whole entire diagram. I had to erase and everything. And at the end of the whole entire day, it took me like an hour to measure everything and put it in a nice diagram and take a bunch of pictures. So to the location person. And it wasn't until the end, the location person called me and they're like, oh, we need a couple of things to signed by the owner. And I was like, do you know where his office is at? They're like, oh yeah, it's just go outside, take a ride. It's going to be right there to the left. I go in there and it's like something from it's his office. It's the weirdest office I've ever been into. It's full of cheetah print, wallpaper, naked ladies everywhere with like, it was just the bizarrest place I've ever been. And I was like, hey, can you sign this? Because we need you to sign it. And he's like, he has like a cigar. It's like from like this old, like walking into like a mafia movie, literally. Just it feels like that. So, and he's like, yeah, I'll sign it. And then, yeah, that was like the craziest ask I think I've ever done. So that's mine.
By the way, I didn't know any of these stories and I love them so much. I just want to throw that out there. So that kind of, and I want to open this up. I want to talk about attitude, right? And this idea, and by the way, as you guys know, I was also there. I was also, an assistant working long hours. Days are long. It's exhausting. How do you kind of prepare yourself for that kind of mental fortitude, for lack of a better word, of, dumpster diving or wrapping 100 packages or a strip club or, bobbleheads? Like what did you kind of tell yourself or do, or, kind of push yourself to do these long, insane tasks? Anyone can take that.
I think the first thing that happens is like, you sort of evaluate, like, is there any way that this is not going to happen, or like that I can get around this? And then I think once you've asked yourself that question and you're like, no, then it's like, okay, we've made the choice. We're going to start this journey. What's the first step? And it's just like baby steps. It's like, okay, the first step is X, then comes Y. And you almost can't like look ahead too far. You have to plan, but then also just be prepared to take it step by step and not let it feel overwhelming, but just to sort of like, just start moving and just start, problem solving as quickly as you can, but just kind of diving in.
I love that. Anyone else?
I think it's also like, at least like in my situation, it was also just kind of like, I'm starting a new job and I'm like, these are people who I want to like me and people who I want to show that, I am able to do things that they ask me to do, even if they are super particular. And these are people who I want to impress and people who I want to be like, look, I can do the work, even if it's this like little tedious thing that's going to take me a really long time to do. Like, I will put the work in, I will get it done, I will make it perfect for you and show you that like, I care as much as you care about this. And so like doing that was something that I think, really helped, get it through my head, being like, yes, this is tedious and annoying and like you don't want to do it. And it's like, working at an agency, you don't want to sit in the back and make boxes. You want to like be out there reading scripts and stuff. But, doing that like is showing the agent that I care and showing all the other assistants there that like, I might just be in the mailroom, but I really care to make this as best that I can for, the client and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I think it's also a learning experience. You want to learn how to do those little detail-oriented stuff, so that way you'll probably come across it again one day. So just knowing that, okay, this is how you do it, so next time it's a little that much easier. So I'm sure maybe one day another client will ask me
Yep.
to make a bobblehead for them. I don't know exactly what to do, so being able to just know that body of information is helpful.
Yeah, well, it's so funny you brought up the gift wrapping, because I think, as all of you know, I think, or all the women on this panel know, because they've seen me, I am insane about client Christmas gifts. Like, I'm a psychopath. I start planning in August what the client gifts are, and I care a lot about packaging and wrapping, and it's very specific. And I think the idea, to tie into Wilson and Jess, it is customer service. We are in the customer service business. As a manager, as a PA, as a producer, as a creative exec, our job is to help creatives be creative or help them with their career. And they do look at the small things and they do look at the packaging. And I know that it often seems crazy, but I am telling everyone on this panel that clients judge how you handle their career by how you do the small things. Right? I think we can all say that. And even producers to PAs, how you get the coffee order is going to give us the confidence to give you a bigger job and more responsibility. We're going to start you with the little thing and then work your way up to the big thing, but we're not going to give you the big thing until you do the little thing that looks small, but is actually really important.
That was actually, if I could jump in for a sec, that's how I got the temp job on Rachel's desk when I was interning at Haven. I was asked to wrap up leftovers from someone's birthday party. And it meant, kind of being smart about how to package this so it wouldn't spill in someone's car. And when I brought it into the room full of managers, they were like, oh, we see you, intern. And I was like, thank you. And that was like the first moment where I felt like I went from being seen as an intern to like, we should maybe give her something else to do. But it means like, And as someone now who supervises interns, it's like when someone does those little things right, like you notice, because otherwise I have to go redo those things and then I'm annoyed. So those little things, I swear, really do add up.
100%. And we've talked about a lot, and I don't think people believe me when I say, like, we're looking at interns, we're looking at assistants and PAs. Who is stepping up? Who has a smile on their face after a 14-hour day? Who shows up early? Like, who is gonna, I mean, the dumpster diving is a bit extreme, but I am sure I've asked people to do crazy things of like, and doing it with a smile of like, hey, I'm really stressed out. Could you get me a coffee? And it sounds little, but if I haven't slept and I have a client and that coffee is going to help me. And if you get my order right, it seems small, but it is important. So Chanel, I'm going to come to you for a question.
Okay.
I want to talk about a little bit about networking as an assistant and building your network and kind of, because I know how many hours you spent in the chair as an assistant. How do you kind of juggle that and network and go to shows and do all the things?
I think you have to be really passionate about what you want to do. I loved comedy, so I knew that I would do anything in my power to learn as much about comedy as I could. So after a long day, because I have that love for comedy, going to a show was actually something fun for me to do, and to meet with other comedians and just go there and learn about how they were crafting their 1 hour set, who was funny to me, what I liked. I think I learned a lot about going to those shows. And that's where you meet a lot of people, and it's, you know, if you have that passion, it shows to the people that are at the show. So when you go up to a comedian, you're just like, oh, I really loved your set. I thought you're really interesting. You're connecting in that way, and it just helps you make your network bigger. So you really have to love it.
I mean, I think I would say that about everything in this business. And Adon, I kind of want to ask that same question to you of like, what is it like to be a PA on set when there's such long hours, and how can you build your network respectfully and still kind of network, even though if you're on a job for 16 hours, networking within the crew and the cast? I'd love you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's those little in-between moments where no one's really doing anything, because you don't want to talk to someone while they're trying to focus the camera or try to like set up for the next scene. It's more of like you have a chill time and the other person has a chill time, and you could just ask a question here and there. Don't be like, hey, I'm gonna be this and that and this, but be like, hey, so why do you like doing what you're doing? Or how did you get to that part? And it's like the little things, like how Emily said, that you do the little stuff to make something not like fall from just someone's leftovers, that really gets someone's interest. So like when I was in the Rasha group, I had so much crafty left. I just thought of an idea. I was like, I have a lot of paper trash bags. I'm just gonna stuff a bunch of trash bags and such a bunch of crafting trash bags and just give it to everybody, whoever wants all this crafty. So people do really notice that. I know Rachel noticed that, and like Valeria noticed that. So, and then like even when we had leftover LaCroix, Rachel and Valeria wanted LaCroix, and I was like, wait, there's 2 packets of LaCroix, you get one. So you just kind of have to like finesse the ways, and also going back to like trying to ask people what they really like, because one of the things that people like to do is talk about themselves, especially people that are like producers, writers, and that. So if you genuinely want to know their story, they will tell you it.
I just to jump in, like Adon's crafty solve on set is like one of the most beautiful things. I swear to God, I turned around, there's all this crafty, and it was like in separate bags, giving out to people. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It was amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about script reading and coverage. And what that is, because I think that's a word that's thrown out a lot. I think I made poor Jen and Emily do a lot of coverage. So I'd love to talk about kind of and Chanel, also, we're going to come to you on the talent side, although I don't know the answer to that because I worked in talent for 1 year and realized how much I hated it and never went back. Give me a nerdy writer any day. That's fine. So I'd love you to talk a little bit about what is this thing called coverage and how do you do it?
So script coverage has a couple of components to it. Basically, like the first part is you're reading a script and then you're summarizing it. And then the second part is you're giving some comments or thoughts on it. And usually you want your summary to be about a page, maybe a page and a half, and your comments to be about, you know, a paragraph. So the whole document together should not be longer than 2 pages. This is a really helpful thing for producers and like executives and assistants. You know, a lot of times you'll do this as an intern too, if you're lucky. It's really helpful because a lot of times the volume of scripts that's coming in is so high that like to read everything is sort of impossible. So coverage comes into play where it's like, maybe there's something that like, maybe I can delegate to you, hey, can you read this? And then based on your coverage, I can say, oh wait, this story is already too similar to a project we already have. I shouldn't read it because it's just too similar. Or if it sounds kind of interesting, or if there's an intern who's really passionate about a script and is like, I think this is amazing, I haven't seen anything like this before, then it's like, okay, I'll put that on my like weekend reading list. It's something that I'll take more seriously, but it does really help us when people do coverage well. We can use those summaries and like forward it to the big bosses if it's done really well. And we will give credit to our interns and say like, FYI, like our intern, you know, Sam or Jackie, like did a really great job, so that our bosses start becoming familiar with those names and start to like notice, even when they're not in the office all the time, like there's people working for our company and they're doing really good work. So I think, you know, being very, you know, taking a lot of care with coverage is really important.
And I think, but Chanel, before I kick it back to you, like, here's the thing that most people don't realize. Like, I'm reading the coverage and it has the intern's name on it, right? Or at least at Haven, it does. I can't speak to all companies. So that is, I'm looking at it. If you have spelling errors, if you have grammar errors, if you can't articulate, I'm going to judge that. But if you have a POV, I'm reading it, and that's the best way for me to kind of see your taste, and I'm going to start to learn about you. So people think we don't read the coverage, but we read the coverage and we see who wrote the coverage. So Chanel, on the talent side, like, is there an equivalent, or kind of how are you help sorting through all the 1,000 comedians, actors who throw in their reels to you?
Well, for coverage now, I read scripts, a lot of the pilot scripts for casting reasons. I read a script to know which of our clients are going to be right for it, to be able to talk to our clients about the material. A lot of times clients rely on your taste. That's why you're their manager, so you'll read things for them. I do that a lot for clients, and they ask me my thoughts on the script. What do I think? And so reading a lot of scripts was really important to me when I interned at all the production companies that I interned at, because it really helps you establish your taste, recognize what a good writer is. And it also puts you in front of executives, because if you're doing it right, those executives are reading it, and then you can talk to them about it. I actually talked to a couple of the executives about it. I'd knock on their door and be like, hey, I really like this script. I want to talk to you about it. Even asking the assistants around the production companies, like, give me as many scripts as I can, I can read, because that's really what the business is about. Like, the script starts the whole chain of events. Like, you have to cast it, you have to produce it, you have to get a writer, you have to know what writers you like in the business. So I think coverage and reading as many scripts as you can is really important in every area of the business, to be honest.
I think it's also like building taste, right? Like, you either as a creative person or as an executive or a manager, like, if you don't know what's good, you don't know how to kind of build the ladder, right? Mm-hmm. So I used to read, this is true story, and I think Emily and Jen and Chanel know this, I would read 12 scripts a week. My business partner Jesse would read 12. We'd meet on Sundays and we'd kind of like jointly write our coverage, and we'd turn in like 24 coverages to our bosses, and like they thought we were awesome, but we were just really like pairing up. But reading so much coverage and talking about it and building our kind of ladder of what's good, what's bad, what do we like, what do we respond to, really helped us. So when we were ready to start our company, we had kind of a language and a vocabulary of things we liked and why we liked them and writers we wanted to go after, and we knew each other's tastes. So like finding and building a team as an assistant, as a PA, as a student is going to be super helpful. So I want to talk a little bit about getting promoted and the hustle that it takes to get promoted. And this is going to be a question for everyone, because every single of these awesome panelists has been promoted really quickly. I just won't let Adon go. He keeps trying to leave. I'm like, no, you have to come back and now be student liaison. So I want to kind of kick it to both of you, to everyone, both of you. Guys, day 30, I'm losing my mind. Of what you think it was, if you can pinpoint, or maybe it's a couple things that really helped your boss say, hey, you're ready for the next step. I'm going to promote you. I'm going to give you the title bump or the money bump or more responsibility. And let's like be specific, because I think, and I've had this before and I've told this story, I've often had assistants who come to me like, I'm ready to be promoted. And I'm like, great, but why? Like, why are you going to be promoted? Just saying you want to be promoted is not like an actual answer. I want $1 billion, that's not going to happen. So, Emily, let's start with you. Kind of what do you think it was?
I think it's a few different things, but I think it all comes back to sort of what we've been talking about, is like the little things. And really, if you take care of the little things and you show that like, hey, I work hard, I show up on time, I have a good attitude, and I'm doing that consistently, and I'm sticking with a company, I believe in a company, then that's noted by people. And then slowly, I think it will be, for me, it was like starting to be invited into meetings and like, why don't you sit on this meeting? Or if you flagged this in your coverage that it's really great, you should join this and meet the writer or director. And then starting to be in those meetings and my boss feeling comfortable with how I'm able to handle myself and the questions that I'm able to ask, or being pulled into sessions with like Michael Showalter, who's our principal, and being able to give him sensitive feedback on material and feeling like, oh, I've sort of been able to prove myself while still in an assistant capacity. So like my boss knew that like I could be promoted and handle, like the writers that we're working with and the projects that we're working with that same diligence and care. So I think it is all those little things that we've been talking about. It's more of that. It's just really just proving your dedication.
Jen, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I think, specifically like for Verve where I'm at now, I think a lot of it was, me just taking the initiative to do things and kind of being like, I know what needs to be done and getting it done before someone asks me to do it. When I was in the mailroom, it was a lot of, we have this position called mailroom point where you're basically the liaison between the mailroom and all the assistants and agents and the rest of the company. And so after about 2 weeks of me being in the mailroom and just kind of like taking over certain responsibilities that the current mailroom point wasn't doing to get things done, to make sure that things are happening, I kind of was, tapped on the head and said, okay, you're going to be this person next. And, I had already been doing a lot of it, so I was able to pick it up quickly. And I think just kind of showing that like I knew what needed to get done, getting it done before it needed to be done, and kind of showing that like I was, again, just, taking initiative to do things before I was asked, and showing that I was able to do the things well and timely, and because a lot of it is, again, like Emily said, the little details of it all. And I think a lot of it was that, honestly, just kind of showing that I was aware and I was there and I was ready to fully give my effort into everything I was doing.
And I want to throw this out because Jen, I mentioned it to the students early, but they didn't know you yet. Jen is the person who, when I was like, man, I really suck at design, she's like, I'm going to teach myself Canva. I'm going to learn this so you don't have to. And I was like, I love you. Don't leave me. Even though I'm going to find you a job, please don't leave me. I'm going to find you a job across the hallway when we had hallways. But that initiative of like, I know Rachel doesn't have time to teach herself software. Also, she's very bad technically. So I'm going to teach myself was such a great initiative.
I think like a lot of that happened with you too, because I mean, like last year when I was program coordinator, you were like, we're getting a donation. I need you to figure out how to spend this money. And I was like, I've never dealt with anything like that before, but I will, do all the research, call all the people, figure out what to do, because I know like Rachel doesn't have time for it. This is something that I am delegated and I will get it done. Even though I've never done it before, I'm going to say yes and, do the best that I can and ask the limited amount of questions I can ask without, infringing on the few free moments she has. Because your bosses are all like, my boss is insanely busy. I try and if I have my questions, I try and ask them all at once so I can get everything done in a timely manner, because I know that he's busy and he has a lot of stuff going on. And so like, I want to do my job to the best of my ability, but I also don't want to like be constantly asking him things. So it's kind of like being smart about what you're doing and when you're doing it as well.
I love that. Chanel, we're going to come to you last, and I have a reason for that. But Adon, I'm going to give it to you, neck of why do you think, I'm just curious, I won't let you go, and I keep trying to steal you back for more and more things.
Because I am very dedicated to you, but I'm also very dedicated to my work, and I love learning. Learning is such a big, crucial thing here, because when I did my first PA job, I learned so much from my other colleagues and other PAs. Like, one of the things that I still do to office places is always ask before you dump the coffee if anybody wants any more, because there's going to be these office people that are going to probably have 2 more hours of more work after they're supposed to be done by 8. So having that little jolt of coffee and then me throwing it away and not them having it and having them to be very deprived is really important and is really a really big key. So from learning that from Glow my first year, and then being a PA for Funny or Die, and me asking everyone in the office the first day, don't even know anyone's name, still telling them, hey, I'm about to throw away the coffee, do you guys want any more? And then being like, oh, thank you, yes. So just learning and picking up a lot of stuff, and just along the way, you just get to learn more and more things. And so when you do have a problem, you'll be like, oh, I got the solution. I'll go to the Target just to get more batteries. Oh, I got the solution. I saw CVS down the road. I'll just get more water. And so just like a lot of learning and a lot of like taking that upon yourself and trying to problem solve really quickly and just like learning a lot. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Chanel, over to you, and I'm going to do some deep diving.
I think I was ready to I perfected the desk. I basically knew what there was to know on the desk, so I was ready for the next challenge. So for me, I just started looking and researching. I watched a lot of content online, figuring out what I liked, what kind of clients I'd want to sign, the next step of my career. So I just started bringing clients to my boss and be like, hey, I found this. I really think you should sign them, or we should dig deeper. I already reached out to their agent. They don't have an American representative. So it was just already putting things in place so that when I came to my boss with the clients, I had already done all the research. I came with my reasons of, hey, this is why I think you should sign them. This is what I see the potential. It's just going to your boss and be like, hey, I know this information. I want to share it with you. Let's move forward with this, and just being prepared for that and being able to talk to your boss and not be afraid of them being like, no, I don't get it, or yeah, I get it, or fighting for a client. I've had to fight for clients that my boss didn't necessarily like, and I fought for a client because I was really passionate about it, and that client ended up doing an amazing show. So it's like just really fighting for what you believe in and what you see and what you like.
So I want to deep dive, which is kind of why I was ending this question on you, because I have seen it, so I kind of know the answers, but our students don't. So correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time that you were promoted, you were assisting Amy, Brady, and Lindsay, right? Or just Amy and Brady? I don't remember.
I was working for 3 of them. And then around the time I was like ready to have more time to be able to go to shows and watch content is when I started working for just Amy. And then probably like 6 months after that, I was promoted.
So I want to talk a little bit about how do you time management, right? How do you juggle 3 bosses and still have time to go for shows and you had just gotten married or you're about to get married, right? Like, right? Like,
Yeah.
time management, I think, is a super hard thing to learn. And the truth of the matter is, and this is for everyone, there is this moment where you're kind of doing two jobs, right? You're assisting and you're trying to build your client list, or you're, like, this is very common. It certainly was for me. I was assisting and I was writing my business plan, like a 60-page business plan at night. So I would love to dive into like more brass tacks of like, how did you do it all and how did you time manage all this?
I think it's prioritizing. What are the things that need to be done right now? What can be done later on the day? What do so I think that was the main key, is like writing everything down and figuring out, what do I need to do first? What can wait? And then knowing at 7 o'clock your job isn't over. I would still be up in bed submitting on breakdowns. And then after that, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to give myself an hour to get on a YouTube hole and just start watching videos and content and reading articles. On the weekends, I would do it. I think I was inspired by one of the managers that I met also when I was at Mosaic as an intern. She's like, you have to live and breathe this job, kind of. You'll just be out, in the middle of the day and you just see a book and you're like, oh, I wonder if that material's taken. So like your brain kind of never shuts off from the business. You're always kind of like thinking ahead of like, oh, what is this? What should I use? So you always have to ask yourself questions and constantly be moving forward. So I think your brain is just constantly, if you love this, your brain is constantly going to be working, to be honest.
I love that. And I saw it, and Chanel was busting her ass and going to shows, and it was amazing. And her client list is great, which kind of leads me to the next question for everyone on this panel is developing taste and believing in your taste and fighting for your taste. And I watched, I think, everyone on this panel fight for things that they cared about. And that's scary and hard and difficult, right? To go to your boss and be like, this thing matters to me. So I'd love to throw it to everyone of like, what is your advice for that? And how do you believe in your gut that your taste is right, especially if no one believes you? And this happens. There are projects that I love that Jesse doesn't love. There are clients, like this happens all the time. Some people are just not going to see the things that you do. So how do you kind of fight for them? I'll throw it to anyone. Dead silence. Emily, do you want to take this one first?
It's hard. It gets a little bit easier, but you do know that when you're walking into those conversations, they could go a couple of different ways. I think something that's helped me a lot is realizing that it is a matter of taste, and you're not wrong if someone doesn't agree with you. It just means you're not seeing it the same way. And I have this with pieces of material. I also have this, a large part of my job is doing notes on scripts that our company is actively developing. And sometimes people don't agree with my notes. And so I think something for me has been like, why do I think this? And like having those bullet points ready to go. So if someone says, I don't think this is a very strong project, you have all your reasons. Not to just be like, well, I liked it. That leaves you in a little bit of a lurch, but to know that like, well, I think this writer has great potential. They've done great work before. I see the gem in this story. Like to really have those things that you can fall back on that are like concrete reasons. And I think that takes a lot of time. And that's why when you're doing coverage, that's a really helpful exercise to really pinpoint like, okay, did I like this story or not? Yes or no? Okay, why did I like it? And then when you're doing that in, other positions and you have to fight for a project or a client or a person, you really have that vocabulary to say like, I like it because X, Y, and Z. And those bullet points are the things that will change somebody's mind or give it a shot or let you take it on and prove them wrong. So I think that's been the thing for me is like, what are those reasons that you can like whip out of your back pocket?
I have a good story, and we're going to get to everyone, but this is true. What was you guys will know, the Ryan Reynolds doll movie with the, whatever that was called? Anyone know? Where there was like the doll that he was in love with. What was that
Ryan
called?
Gosling, you mean?
Yeah.
Lars and the Real Girl.
Lars and the Real
Yeah,
Girl?
Person, the Real Girl.
All Ryans are the same, Chanel. This is why I don't work in talent, guys. But I had read that script. I had gotten that script early and I loved it. I thought it was so special. And I sent it to Jesse, and Jesse was like, I don't fucking get it. There's a doll. She doesn't talk the whole time. Like, what the fuck? Who's going to watch a movie where nobody talks? And, you know, and we didn't kind of pursue that script. But, like, this happens. I loved it. He didn't. Sometimes that's the way it goes. So, Chanel, I'm going to kick it over to you of, like, how do you make the case that this is a client? And am I thinking of the client that I think it is, of you making the case?
Dairy Girls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a show that you know I'm obsessed with.
Yeah.
So how do you make that case? How do you kind of make people pay attention?
Well, initially it was just like, she just didn't get it. My boss didn't get it. And I was just like, I kind of let it simmer. I went back that night and I still was thinking about it. So I think at that point I was like, no, I'm really passionate about it. I need to go back and fight for it. I was like, hey, when I went in the next day, I had X, Y, and Z, and I was like, I'll do the work. Like, I really believe in this person. I just think we should just take this journey. Like, we don't have someone like this. Like, he's really funny. And luckily it worked out where, like, the show, came out, that Dairy Girls, that's on Netflix, which you all should watch. It's really funny.
I put that in the chat. I said it's so good.
Yeah, so I think it was just my gut was just telling me, like, no, I should fight for this. So the next day I went in and with my reasonings, and I was able to combat everything she explained to me the day before that she didn't get. And I was able to come back to her and go, like, no, this reason I'm coming back with this. So I had done the research and combated all of her ideas. And I was not afraid to go back the next day and say that to her, which was tough, but you got to sometimes do that, stand up for yourself and what you believe in.
100%. And by the way, Chanel was definitely right, because Dairy Girls is amazing. Jen or Adon, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I have only been, working for the agent I'm working for about 6 or so months. But a lot of it, when it comes to, like, me saying, hey, read this over the weekend, I think it's really good, is, tying back to both what Emily and Chanel said, is like the why. Like, why is it good? What are the reasons that it's good? Because again, if you can't back it up, like, no one's gonna, if you just say it's good with no reasonings, no one's gonna get it. But I think also, like, the way you say it is also, like, equally as important as to, like, making sure you have reasons. I think, like, you need to be confident in yourself, which is, like, hard when you're talking to someone who has been in the industry for 20 years longer than you have. Because, you always feel a little insecure, like, maybe I am wrong, but, it's very much like, if you believe in something, like, state why you believe in it, and, like, be confident in that, and, like, have your reasons and be confident in your reasons. You did the work, you did the research, and it's, it's all taste. So, like, it's hard to be wrong when it comes to taste, because it's your taste. And, like, maybe they won't agree with you, and that's okay, but, I truly think that when you come into situations with confidence and, like, being, like, proud of what you're saying and stating what you're saying instead of kind of being more timid, that people are definitely more willing to listen to you. And it's hard and it's scary, but it gets easier the more you do it.
And I want to kind of kick that question to you, Adon, of, like, on set, how do you advocate for something that you believe in when, let's be honest, a PA is generally the last on the call sheet? What are the things or the tools or the techniques you've used to kind of, when you're on set, if you see something or you're uncomfortable with something, how do you learn to kind of advocate and say something?
Well, first you kind of want to talk to the people that are allies to you. So, like, the PAs, like, if you're comfortable enough to say something like that, of course, talk to them first. And then after, the next step would be talking to someone who is a higher power, or sometimes reaching out to you, Rachel. I remember I had, like, an issue as well back on my season, and I didn't know what to do. So I asked you for your recommendation, and it totally worked. It just went like that. So and it's hard, yeah, because again, you are the last person in the call sheet. You are the one at the beginning, the person that's there all the way from the morning to the night. So it's kind of hard to handle and juggle all of that, but always have your allies, always know who you're most comfortable with, and they'll listen. If you have, like, a problem, and you want to try to solve it, they will listen. Yeah.
I think that's, again, I'm hitting on this point a lot, but like, or I don't know if Chanel and Emily and Jen, you did this, but talk to an ally. Like maybe run your presentation by another assistant or your argument or the thing you want to say or me, right? Like, there's people around you. You don't have to go, I'm throwing this out, but I'm making it, you don't have to go to Michael Showalter first. Emily has Jordana and the other assistant, like you can go laterally. And I know Adon and we talked about this, like practice. It's okay to practice, right? Call a friend, dial a friend. I don't know if Chanel, like I will talk it out with Simon or Jesse, right? Like use your resources, and that's totally cool. Chanel probably just went in and told Amy what she wanted, but she's a boss. I would definitely have talked to
I talked to my husband. I talked to like another assistant. I'm like, am I crazy? And then I was just like, I talked to another manager there and they were like, no. And I was like, okay, that's kind of gave me the leverage to go back in.
Yeah. Talk to whoever's around you. Like, and I think that kind of goes back to like building your network so you have someone to talk to, right? I will often do, like Jesse and I and Chanel has heard us in the office, and so is Jen and Emily, of like, am I crazy or what do you think, right? Like have someone whose taste you also trust to be like, am I right? And that's totally fine. Jesse and I have very different tastes, as everyone knows, but when we agree on someone, that's when we know someone's special. Like, and we'll talk it out and we'll argue, right? Everyone has heard it. So I'm gonna turn it over to some questions. Osvaldo, I see you somewhere. There you go, Osvaldo. You have a question?
Can you hear me? Yeah. So starting out, like, on your first jobs, how do you start fitting in or getting used to it as you progress through the jobs you get?
Guys, over to you. Not dead silence. So someone say something.
Wait, can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So starting out, how do you start fitting in or getting used to your first jobs as you progress through them and you start getting more opportunities?
I think you have to go in with a sense of like there is a learning curve. I think for my first assistant job, and like even just every time you start something new, it does for me take about 6 months until I feel like, oh, I know what my job is and I feel good at my job. So I think you have to be a little bit kind to yourself, always be kind to yourself, and know that this is like, it's going to be a learning curve and a journey. It's going to be hard, but don't beat yourself up too much. And I think that will give you like the courage to face another day, or like when you mess up, to like keep going. So I think that's really important. And then you will just kind of start to pick up like time management and figure out what you're supposed to be doing. And it finally will get easier.
It does take 6 months. I will say that.
I feel like it's asking questions. I still ask questions. You're constantly going to be learning. So it's not being afraid to ask everyone around you questions, and that opens up dialogue to help you get to know people more and also to know the job better. So I think that's a big point of getting acclimated to a new job.
And I do want to add, you will have bad days. Everyone has bad days. I don't care who you are going to have bad days. Fucking Obama had bad days, right? The idea is, how do you pick yourself up the next day? Can you move on from it? Can you kind of be kind to yourself, as Emily said, learn from them, forgive yourself, and move on? Like, I'm not my best every day. There are days I've been very hard on probably everyone, on this call. But I think every day, try to be better. Try to like learn something. Like, there's going to go shit that's going to go wrong. I promise you. But finding the ability to wake up the next day, and I think that is one of my skill sets, is like, thankfully I have very short-term memory. Probably there's something wrong with me. But like, I don't remember things from like an hour before. Like, I'm like, okay, that was in the past. I think everyone on this call knows that. Like, I just move on. And that ability to move on and learn and grow is super important. Because I don't care if it's your first day on your job or like I've been a manager since I was 23. I still fuck up. Like I still have bad days. Shit happens. Like, you know, nobody's perfect. I promise you, right? And sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes I'll have a bad day or anyone will have a bad day. And it really has nothing to do with you. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But like letting that go is an important skill set.
I think it's an important thing too that you just said about like, I think everybody in this business is often very busy and very stressed. And so I think one thing, especially at the lower levels, but all the way through, is like sort of sorting out like, okay, this person just yelled at me. Is this a me problem or are like they having a bad day? And sort of knowing that sometimes it's not going to be your fault. Or like you might have done a little thing and you fixed it quickly, but someone's just having a bad day, and like don't let that totally derail you.
Agreed. And sometimes it might not be you, and sometimes it might be you.
It might be you. And that's when you go, my bad, I'm sorry, I'm gonna fix it. There's a way out of this. So yeah.
I do think that's actually an good point. And then I know we've got a bunch of questions, so hopefully you guys can stay around like a little bit longer. Where are you going, by the way? It's not like you're going to a club. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Where was I going with this? Oh, past, present, future, which we talked about earlier today. You know, you've got to be able to say, I made a mistake, I learned from it, I'm not going to do it again, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, and by the way, I as a manager have to do it. I've fucked up on clients. I have done things that I had to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I won't make this mistake again. You know, it happened, let's move on. You know, and that takes courage, right? But being able to own a mistake is super important. There's nothing worse than lying and we catch you. It happened. Like something will happen and the lies are what gets you more in trouble than just being like, I fucked up, I'm sorry, I've learned, let's keep going. Mm-hmm. It's lying about or not taking responsibility that is, I think, the problem. Where was I going? Anyways, I got sidetracked. I was thinking of a particular assistant, Chanel, in accounting. I don't know if you remember that. I was thinking of something specific. Fernando, I know you have a question.
Hi. So I had a question. So you finish your first PA job. What comes next? How do you move on to your second one? Or how do you look for another job?
Adon, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I was gonna go. Well, for me was connections through other people. Like, fortunately, when I was on Glow, one of the line producer, which I think you guys met, Leanne Moore, she grew a liking towards me, and she asked me if I can assist her boyfriend's music contemporary piano, refractor piano, which I have no idea what it is. I heard piano and I was like, oh yeah, I like music, why not? And it was this whole entire experience in a dome. So just say yes. Like all your opportunities that you get, say yes, because from that, her assistant asked me to, because I did talk to her about, hey, I am an office PA and I kind of want to know what a set PA does. And because of that, a few months later after Glow wrapped, she asked me if I can be a set PA for her friend's country music video. So just having a lot of connections and talking to people will get you your next job. And like, again, just like also when Rachel does have those little pop-up messages saying like, hey, is anyone free? I think someone has. I was able to do a BuzzFeed video for a couple of days, and that was just on the spot. And then the next days were like, hey, can you come in? Hey, can you come in? And I was fortunate enough to be able to have those days off, and I was able to go in. So just saying yes and talking to people through connections. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So one would say responding back when Rachel texts you about opportunities is a super good skill set to develop. Just gonna throw that out there. Okay, Joelle, I think Joelle has a question for Chanel specifically.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so as an actress starting out, how do you get your so you're submitting on Backstage, Actors Access, and all those. How do you get yourself noticed to managers and agents?
I'd say the best way is just getting yourself out there. A lot of managers and talent agents look at shorts. Like, I love looking at shorts. I'm constantly looking on Vimeo, or YouTube, or looking at, so if you do like a really amazing short and it gets noticed, that's a good way to get noticed. It's also doing showcases, which I've seen some actors go to, and I attend those, and it's a great way to put your face in front of agents and managers. And it's also like emailing. As much as like all of us are like, oh, I hate a cold email, I do look at them, and I think most people do. Like, and if you have a really great crafted email and you have a really great short on it, like, that's a great shot at getting something as well.
It's true. It's like, we don't often say we look at cold emails, but if it's well written, we'll look at it.
Yeah.
For sure. Even I do it with writers. Like, I say I don't take unsolicited emails and I don't look, but I look. If there's something that catches my eye, I'll have Craig, my assistant, reach out and say, let's see it.
Yeah.
So great question. Niaz, I know you had a question.
Yeah, I was wondering if you feel like you're in a place to like move up or get promoted, I guess. Would you say is the best way to go about that?
I would say take something to your boss that you think they're going to be interested in to show that you're ready to take that next step. Like, either if it's material or a script or an actor or some director of some short. I think that's a really great way to impress them and start showing them that, hey, I have a good eye and I'm, ready to talk about it.
Anyone else? Emily, do you want to weigh in as well?
I was going to say, even in the, like, before you get to that point, if there's a company that you're like really passionate about and you're interning there or you're assisting there, I think you could start dropping hints and talking to people that you work for, saying like, hey, I really love working at this company. Like, what are you looking for? And like, what are other ways that you're looking for people to get involved? And they might have like a project or kind of like something that they've always wanted to do, but didn't have, like the hands to help with it. And that might be something that you can get involved in. But I think what Chanel was saying is like really great, of taking something specific to them. But if you're at a lower level and want to start prying about like, how might I, get from intern to assistant, you can just, asking questions is always a great place to start.
And again, and I think, everyone on this panel knows, like, most people want to promote good people that knows the company or, knows the nonprofit or whatever that thing is. Like, everyone wants to, not everyone, most people want to promote from within. Like, I'd much rather have Chanel be promoted than like having to go through and hire someone. I don't like strangers that much, like, that's the truth. So like, we want to help, and often we'll help you build a case. What doesn't work, and Chanel, I'll leave out the names, is we do, although I can feel you laughing, we do year-end reviews. This is a true story, guys. We do year-end reviews, and we had an assistant come to us and say, I want to get promoted. How do I get promoted? And this is not Chanel, by the way. This is someone no longer at Haven. And we go, great, we'd love for you to get promoted. We think you're awesome. Here are the next steps. Here are the things we want you to do. Bring a client, bring a project, show us what you want to focus on. Put a 2-pager together. Like, we want to promote you, but you have to do the work. They never brought us a 2-pager. They never brought us a client. They never brought us a project. They were just like, and this is a quote, I'm super busy. I just want you guys to promote me and then I'll do the work. And I was like, that's not how it goes. Like, that's just the unfortunate truth. Like, you've got to do the work and show us why you should be promoted. And if you do that, most people will promote you. But it doesn't come without doing the work. Chanel knows exactly who that is. There's nothing I hate more than that. Like, we've told you what to do. We have given you the keys. Don't do it and then complain you don't have time. Because truth of the matter is no one has time, right? I have a husband and I have cooking and I have Film2Future and I have students and I have 25 clients and I have employees. Like, no one has time. Like, that's just not an excuse, right? We're all doing a ton of things. You still have to do the work. Any last questions before I let my favorite people who maybe I'll one day see again in person? It'll happen at some point. Chanel will go back to our beautiful offices that we just designed and we're only there for 6 months. Yep. Those beautiful, beautiful offices. Any last questions or did we talk you guys out? Well, Chanel and Emily and Adon and Jen, this has been such a pleasure. I miss you all so much. God, one day we'll be back together again in person. Thank you all for coming back and speaking to our students. This is my favorite panel to end our summer part on. So a million thank yous. And Chanel, I'll see you Monday morning on our staff Zoom. But thank you guys so much and have a lovely Saturday night hanging at home.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
I'll put my email in the chat. If anybody has like questions or anything, feel free to reach out. Yeah, hope to maybe meet you guys in person one day.
A girl can dream that we're going to be safe enough to meet in person ever again. Thank you guys, really. And actually, one last thing, lightning round. One last words of our advice, one sentence to leave our students on. We're going to lightning round it. Emily, I'm going to let you go first.
Can I go last?
Nope.
Just like, this is hokey, but like actually try your best. Like really give it all you've got.
Love that. Jen?
To repeat myself from earlier, take initiative and be confident in yourself.
Truth. Hey, Dawn?
This is cheesy, but always have a smile on your face. No one wants to work with someone that has a stinky face and complains a lot.
So true. Chanel, take us home with our last piece of great words of wisdom.
I'm just going to say, keep going. This business is hard, but if you put in the work, it will come out in your favor. It's like the strongest one in the race stays in the race. So
I also think, truthfully, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, yeah. It is doing the work long haul every single day. This is not a rise to this success overnight. This is like doing the work. Well, thank you guys. Have lovely Saturday nights doing more dishes. I don't know. I mean, all I do is do dishes these days. So thank you. And Chanel put her email in, just throwing it out there. Jen's ignoring everyone. It's cool.
Getting there.
No, but
and
really,
all of you guys have me on, like, what's that chat called?
What's that?
Yeah, you guys all have me on WhatsApp, so you guys can check on me there.
Well, thank you guys. Have lovely nights.
Bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.